everyone, and welcome to the Meet the Expert show. I'm Dory Sukup, your host and founder of InSPAration Management. And today's topic is all about how to purchase a laser without getting burned. And I brought to you a very special guest today, Don Berryhill, to explore this entire topic and make it enjoyable and effortless. So I am super excited that you're with us. I have to say that as a consulting firm, we often hear some stories about the whole purchasing process that you guys go through and sometimes how painful it can be. So today we are going to try to simplify the process and give you some great tips to make it easy for you and a great experience. So to get us started, I'm just going to share with you Don actually has been in the business for over 25 years. So between him and I, we're both very old. I've been doing this for 23 years, and so you have almost 50 years of expertise right here. And what I love about Don is not only does he have the expertise, but also he has unbiased opinion because he is not attached to any laser companies. So you are going to get the absolute truth today, which is so important when it comes to selecting, negotiating, and actually purchasing a laser. So I am super happy to have him here. I like him so much that we recommend him now as the laser coach to our clients who are purchasing lasers and who are also needing training, because Don also does training for your team on lasers. So I am super excited that you're with us today. So you have questions, please go ahead and submit them in the chat. And we are also live on Instagram and Facebook. So we would love to hear any of your stories with us as well. So welcome everyone. And Don, it's so great to have you. Welcome to you for joining us on the Meet the Experts. Great to have you.
Thank you, Dory. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's say somebody wants to go ahead and explore the options of bringing in a laser to their practice. So where does one start? There's so many options. Can you take us through that little initial journey?
Yeah, first of all, I feel sorry for them when they're starting. Especially if they don't know this industry, or they're just thinking it's something that they need to add to the practice. The most common thread that I see between new buyers is they don't know what they don't know. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of systems out there. There's a lot of aggressive salespeople out there. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of confusing literature and physics and before and after pictures and all that. So it's a lot to wade through. And what is really important for people is just to become a better educated consumer and really understand what you're buying and what it really can do, because some lasers are touted as doing all this when they can really do all this. Mm-hmm. And that's something that happens to a lot of people when they get one, because it's overblown on what the capabilities are. So they really need to do their research. They need to, the sales reps, I was a sales rep for years, and I didn't like it because there's a lot of pressure from management to sell these machines. And so the reps can be very aggressive, and someone can be really good and really slick and, really pressuring people to buy. The main thing is to take a breath, back off, tell them you'll get back to them, think about it, look at your options, understand them, and don't make it an impulse purchase.
Right, that's for sure, especially when we're talking about six figures investment. Yeah. They're anywhere between 100 to 150,000 or more, so that makes a big difference. That's really where I want us to start, actually, with the budget and the financial component. So if somebody just, let's say, starting out or maybe thinking about expanding, how much should they really invest in, let's say, a multiple modality laser? What is that magical number, you think?
The prices vary quite a bit. I would say if you're looking at devices that are under typically 30 or 40,000, they may not be really good quality. They might be, but typically you're up in the $50,000 range and up. Some lasers go up to $300,000. I know one that's the doctor told me he got a quote for $430,000, which is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous to be spending that much. I think one of the main things to do for people is to figure out their budget, what they can afford, and then get pre-approved if you need financing. Because what's happened a number of times is somebody's contacted me about wanting to get like a used laser, like a used version of something that's out there. And, we'll find what they're looking for, and then they go to get financed, and it's a tougher market to get financed, especially for startups. So they may be looking at a laser that's $100,000 or $75,000, but then everything gets put in place, and when they get their financing approved, it's for $35,000 or $40,000, and then it's like a whole game changer.
Sure.
It's like, okay, so you really got to figure that out up front, what you can afford. You want to be ready. So if a good deal does pop up, it's really going to work for you. You can, you can buy it, quickly if everything is right on it. One of the biggest things is not to overextend yourself, especially in the beginning. Sometimes one laser is fine. A platform system is oftentimes good for a startup because they don't take a lot of room. You can do a fair amount of procedures with them, and you can do combination therapies with them, and then you can expand from there. So if you get busy in a certain area, then maybe that's where you buy your next laser.
Right.
You get busy in this area, maybe that's where you buy your next one. You kind of grow it, depending on the demand.
So what we do, Don, when we start working with someone and they're opening up, we do a business plan, and then we really plan their menu. And once we decide, okay, what are those treatments that you're going to be offering within your facility, and then we would assign a certain amount of finances to each one of those modalities. So when they go for the loan, it's already in the process of getting all their financing. And we found that to really work very well, because then when they get the loan, they already have the equipment as part of it. But we have some partners like what's their names? I was just speaking with you about them. Emergent Technologies. And they tell me often that people can't get financing for their equipment. And that's often a challenge because they are so expensive, and it does stop a lot of people from doing that. So is the next best thing to actually buy used or pre-owned lasers? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, that it's becoming a bigger demand because some of the new stuff is just so crazy expensive. It just blows my mind sometimes. But yeah, knowing what you can afford makes a big difference, and having that into your budget. And then used makes sense for some people. And what I've noticed, there's new buyers out there, there's used buyers out there. Some people just really want the brand new with the manufacturer, with their training, with their, their marketing supplies that they provide and all that kind of stuff. And then some people really want to, save money. And that's the big number one thing for buying used. You just have to really know what you're doing with used. And some devices are better to buy used, and some are better to buy new. And so that's something I can really help out with people and help them to understand, because for every success story I've heard with the used laser, I've heard a horror story. Because, and we can get into that as much as you want to, but it's been kind of the Wild West for used lasers, and you just have to be careful.
Yes. So what are some of these surprises you think? I know you've worked with a lot of people. So let's say somebody is going through the purchase process, whether it's new or pre-owned. What are some of the things that could come up that they need to be ready for?
Yeah, how much time do we have? Yeah, again, it's just that people don't know what they don't know. I've worked in the corporate world with laser manufacturers for a number of years. So I know what goes on behind the curtain. I know how they put their quotes together. I know what they, how they operate and how they do all this kind of stuff. And people just don't know what they're doing, what they're up against sometimes. And so usually it's just not buying the right device for them at the right price and knowing the true capabilities of that system, because that's what happens a lot of times. I'll hear somebody say, well, I spent $100,000 on this laser. Well, I can't do all the stuff I wanted to. It's only good in this small range. And if that's okay for you and that little small range is where you want to focus, that's okay. You just have to know it. Some of the new lasers, the companies, they go to school on the first time buyers because they'll have a first generation and they want to see how it goes and see what feedback they get. And the prices are at an all-time premium. They're super high. Then they'll kind of figure out what's going on, and they've got generation 2 behind it that they're going to make some tweaks and pull it out, and that's going to be cheaper. And for just about every new expensive device that comes out, if you wait 8 months, it's going to be way, way cheaper. So I know a super successful Medspa owner who his business model is buying the newest, the latest, the greatest, no matter what the cost is, because he has a patient base that he can go to and they will do it. And so he'll pay that money, but he's charging exorbitant prices, but he wants to be able to market that he's the first to have it in that community, first to offer it, newest technology, newest treatments, all that kind of stuff. So that's a really small club of business owners that can do that and can afford it. He can afford it. So you really need to know the true capabilities. That's one area I can help. And then on the used thing is, like I said, traditionally it's been kind of like the Wild West. So you've got a lot of people that are working out of their bedrooms with a virtual inventory and saying that they have this device and it's in perfect condition and it's right here and it's all this kind of stuff. And they're very convincing, extremely convincing. And the horror story is that somebody buys it, they put 50% down, whatever. A month later, a device shows up that's not that same device, not that same year. It's got twice the number of pulses on it. It's missing a foot switch because they have a virtual inventory. So they try to find whatever it is that person's looking for, have it blanket wrapped, drop shipped to the customer, and then you never hear from them again. So that's one of the biggest complaints. The bigger companies, there's a couple of pretty good size used companies out there, and I've done work with both of them. They have huge buildings. They have a pretty good size inventory.
Well, actually, one of them is in Austin. Are you talking about Synergy Med Sales?
We're one of them. Yeah. There's a handful of pretty big ones. They're actually up in Dallas.
Dallas, yes.
But some of these have a really high overhead, and they have to try to move the inventory that they have, and they're maybe pushing devices that you don't really need, and get them out the door, move on. So what we try to do is really discuss it with the customer. What's your needs? What are you looking for? We just want to make sure you get the right device that's a good fit for you. So it's just really being careful with the used and making sure it's the best fit for you. And you have to worry about recertification fees, which have you heard about those?
Yeah, those are some of the questions that are probably going to be coming in. And actually, we received some of those. That before we get into that, though, let's keep with the negotiation and the purchase. And then we'll get into that topic, because I know we're going to have a lot of questions about that. But what would I expect as far as negotiation? Let's say something is $100,000. What is that buffer or discount or margin that I can expect to negotiate and get to the bottom line? What is that? What's the rule of thumb?
The companies, especially the big companies, they build a lot of margin in there because they want to start real high. The device might be 180,000, but they end up selling it for 100. 110, 120, whatever. So people have to understand it's a game they play. Most of them is what they do. So they build in those pretty high margins. The thing to remember is you're in the driver's seat. You're the one that's buying. It's not them, and they will put all kinds of high pressure on you to buy. And one of the things that they do is we'll say we have an end of the month special. We have one device left. It's a demo system. It's normally 150,000, but if you buy it today or by the end of the month, it's going to be 90,000 or 100,000 or whatever. That's it. It's going to go away. We have 5 people looking at it. It's, they really put the high pressure on it. I just got approval from my manager to sell it for you, especially at this price. Oh my gosh, I hope you take it. The main thing to remember is if they're going to sell you a device at a discount by the end of the month, they're going to do it again next month.
That's right.
And that's where people get pressured into buying. So put them on ice, take a breath, tell them, send me the quote, let me look at it. I look over a lot of quotes for people, and I can look through it. A lot of times there's a lot of fluff and extra things that you don't need and things you can negotiate on, warranties and, prices and stuff like that. So the main thing is to drive the rep crazy a little bit in terms of like, yeah, I'm interested. Yeah, that sounds great. I really like this. Give me your best price. And I gotta check. I got some other options I want to look at, and I'll get back. Oh, but it's going to go away at the end of this month. They'll sell it to you again for the same deal next month.
Of course. Yeah. So we call that creating urgency.
Yes, they're good at that.
They're very good at that. Yeah. So when somebody wants to buy, I know that's one of the services that you provide, correct? Where you can help them negotiate, and that's what a lot of people, I think, especially since they're medical professionals, they're not in sales, they believe everything sometimes that they're being told, and that's where things get muddy, I think. They'll be much better off, and I'm giving this advice really for everybody with us today or anybody that's going to be watching this later. You need somebody on your side to be that negotiator, because then you're taking your emotions out of it. You're taking all that, your own personal opinion out of it, and letting somebody, as long as you say, I want this piece of equipment, then you should really have somebody like Don go and negotiate it for you, or someone that you can trust and someone that's going to be looking after your behalf. So I think that's very important to also remember.
Yeah.
How does that process work?
I'm a laser rep's worst nightmare.
That's good. Maybe that should be your nickname.
Yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, they love me for that. But I try to be, because I worked in that corporate environment for a long time. I didn't like the high pressure. I loved the technology, but I really wanted to be an advocate for buyers and to really help use what I've learned all these years to help people become a better educated consumer, get the equipment that's right for them, and find the best deals.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. We need to have somebody like that when you go out and buy a car too.
Somebody said that you're almost like a realtor for lasers. Like a realtor
that's true.
will help shop around for you and make sure you know this and know that and check this and check that. And it's like, okay. Yeah.
Because it is true. I mean, there are so many different companies now and so many different lasers that claim to do different things. So I think doing their homework is really very important. And then talk to people who have that laser. And that's what I love about our community. We have, for our members, we have a private Facebook group. So if somebody's thinking about buying a certain laser or a piece of equipment of some sort, it could be high frequency, it could be whatever, they can go on the private Facebook group and leave a message, and then they have hundreds of people that can comment and give advice and say, yes, I have that one, it doesn't work. Yes, I have this one, I love it. Yes, this one has high consumables. Yes, this one's repairs are so expensive. So those are the things that are so important when you're part of a community. So whether it's our community helping you or someone like Don helping you, either way, you need someone like that on your side, because this is a major investment. And the other thing I see, Don, that people do often is they overextend. You had mentioned don't overextend early on. but they go chasing these bright, shiny objects. And they think the more lasers they have, the more successful they can be. But that's not necessarily the way it goes. What brings
No.
success to the business is a proper business model. That's really what
Yeah.
you need. Because you can buy that laser, it could be the best of the best, or energy equipment or whatever, and then it sits there collecting dust. It's a just sitting there. Actually, I
Yeah.
visited someone in Texas where you are, and I walked into their facility and I found two cool sculpting machines in a closet.
Oh
Two.
yeah. Yeah. I
I
get a lot of
almost
people calling me wanting to sell their cool sculpting machines, and they're hard, and that's a whole other story. I can tell you why that's a hard thing to do. But yeah, that happens a lot. People and they will buy impulsively because of, the return on investment numbers
yeah,
that a rep will show them. And, if you could only do 3 cases a week, you're going to make
yeah.
this
You
amount of
need
money, and
two.
it's going to be huge, and we're going to help you market it, and it's going to be great,
Yeah.
it's going to be awesome. And you have to work at it. You have to have a smart business plan. You have to have somebody like yourself that understands this business, and people need to really
Yeah.
realize that the laser companies are in the business of selling lasers. They're not in
Yes.
the business of marketing them.
No. Or
They will
helping you
say
with
they
your
are.
business. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So a lot of times you'll see people that say, well, you got a marketing package with it. And it's like a pizza box full of brochures and camera ready artwork and, you know, uh, stuff like that. And then they kind of go, okay, good luck, and so they don't know what to do with it, especially if they're new in this business. So like the Medspa owner I mentioned that's really successful, he's got this down. I mean, he knows his plan. His philosophy is butts in seats. He says, I want to be like an airline. If I got an
yeah.
empty seat,
Of
on my
course.
plane, I
It's
want
all
to fill
about
it.
capacity. Yeah. You have to have the ability to maximize the hours of that piece of equipment that you're buying. And if it's
Yeah,
sitting empty, you're losing money, not just not making any money, you're losing money. So that's
yeah,
very, very important to do. All right.
yeah,
So let's go into a little bit, let's go into the pre-owned and all the classifications. Or let's go back to the client that I found with two cool sculpting machines. Let's say they want to sell them. What's the best way to go about selling maybe a piece of equipment so you can free up some of your investment to buy something else? Where do they start with that situation?
yeah. This is a deep subject. This could be a real eye opener for a lot of people. On the used market, it all depends on demand. Like I already had two people reach out to me this morning that want to sell devices that there's just no demand for. And, well, I spent so much money for this. Yeah, you did, but they can't market it. They can't sell it. Technology's moved on, whatever. And they have a boat anchor on their hands. So that happens sometimes. So once these manufacturers sell a device, they don't want it back. They're done. And so especially, I don't want to, I don't want to get the cool sculpting company after me because they're very much can be like that. But they make it very difficult for people to sell their used devices, and part of it is because they, like a lot of other companies, will charge a ridiculously high recertification fee. Um, I have a story I could tell. I'm trying to decide if I want to put it out there. But so some companies have modems and can remotely access a device. And I've seen this happen where somebody wants to sell it and I helped somebody where the device was operational. We did a FaceTime call and a person bought it. And by the time it got to their office, it wasn't working. And there was a code that came up and said, you need to enter this code.
Yeah.
Well, that code was the rep found out about it and they were able to. So if a rep wants to come by and just think, I'm going to do a free check of your system, or we're going to come in, we're going to upgrade the software. What they might be doing is keeping people out of it, other technicians, or making it where you have to get back in touch with them
Yep.
to be able to have somebody else use it. So what will happen is if somebody buys a used system for certain companies, when that person gets it, like this person did, they get this code that they can't, so they were forced to go back to the company. The company said, oh yeah, well for $35,000, we'll give you the code, we'll turn it back on, then we'll put you in the system, and then we'll sell you an extra warranty, and then you can start buying parts from us. So recertification fees are a big thing in the used market. And then, so that's why some devices are better by using others, because you have to be really careful if a device uses a proprietary disposable, because the companies chip that tip to that machine, and it can only be using those tips. So say you buy a used device that has to have a proprietary tip, and some of them don't need proprietary tips. It's just a way to make money. So say you buy it and you don't want to go back to the company because you don't want to pay a crazy recertification fee, and then you go try to find those tips and they're hard to find. You almost have to know somebody to get it. Then you're forced to go back to that company and forced to pay the recertification fee. So typically, used devices that don't require disposables are the best ones to buy.
Yes.
And then they have to be systems that can be serviced by third-party technicians.
Yeah.
Because some of the big companies have made it extremely difficult for any third-party techs to get in those machines.
Yeah, they hold you hostage.
What's that?
They hold you hostage.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what they do. Now, is there a way for a buyer to know all this in the contract when they first start exploring whether they should buy that or not? Like, they should be thinking about getting out of it and how they can get out of it before they even buy it. Shouldn't they be doing that?
Yeah, that's a really smart move, and this is what I recommend to people is negotiate that into your purchase when you buy it, is that they're going to remove any clause about recertification fees. They're going to waive it. If you're going to sell it to anybody else, they're going to honor the rest of the warranty. They're going to provide that new person with tips. They will not want to do that, and they will fight it every step of the way. Some of them will do it and some of it don't. But if a person can get that in their contract, it will make it 10 times easier to sell when it comes time.
Very nice. So that was a big tip for you guys. So make sure you look at the contract and make sure that it has all the things that are very important for you, from the buying to the exiting. I think that's very key. Let's talk a little bit about, because I find this also often. Somebody could be in a certain area of the United States where maybe there's not a big pool of employees, and they buy all these sophisticated equipment, and then they don't know who can run that piece of equipment, what qualifications they must have, and then they find out there's really not many people that can actually perform that treatment within the region. So what are some of these essential things that they should really be considering, again, during that buying process, where a lot of them don't even think about that?
Yeah, that could be a big deal. So it all depends on the classification of the device. So like a class 1 device is like a microdermabrasion system. And really you just have to have some kind of skincare license. You could be a cosmetologist,
An esthetician.
Then you go to a class 2 device, which is like a pulse light system. And typically that's going to be an esthetician or a laser tech or some kind of credential person. There's a lot more schools opening up that will train people on that, and you have accreditation or certification to be able to do that. And then you get up to class 3 and class 4 devices, which are the true lasers. It becomes a little trickier. But what it comes down to a lot of cases, and what they need to do is check with their state medical board and see what the class, how it's, what's it called? Delegation of laser uses. They need to find that for their state, because it's different in every state. But a lot of times it's a gray area. So it may be that you have to have a medical director within reasonable distance, or reasonably available. And it's like, what does that mean? If they're fishing, but they have a cell phone, is that reasonable? so you need to check that. But what it comes down to, it's the delegation of the doctor. So if you're in a medical office, he's delegating that person to use that device, and it's his responsibility or her responsibility that just like any other procedure they're
Yeah.
doing in the office, I'm delegating you to do that. So they have to be comfortable that you know what you're doing. Um, so,
They can also
so
reach out to an attorney. Like I did a Meet the Expert show with Sarah Schickman. She's an attorney that specifically works with medical spas. If you guys want to reach out to her, she's
yeah,
so good and she can guide you as far as who can do what and make sure that you're doing it legally and you're dotting all your I's and crossing your T's and making sure that you are all set. I have a client here in Orlando. Listen to this, Don. She has a medical director and they're converting a day spa into a medical spa. And she bought a laser hair removal system. And they told her, even though she has a medical director, in the state of Florida now, you have to have an electrolysis license to operate a laser hair removal. I'm like, what?
oh,
That doesn't make
I haven't
any
heard that
sense.
one.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. So literally, she had to go to school because she wanted to be the one to operate it. And I just like, are you serious? I've never heard
That's a
such a thing.
that's a first for me. Now in Texas, if somebody goes and gets their laser hair removal certification, they go to one of these schools and they're certified. I can't remember how much schooling it is. It's not a ridiculous amount, but then they have to do a certain amount of cases. In Texas, they can go ahead and just do hair removal. They can,
Well, in
go to work
Texas,
at
in Texas, you can do
Medspa,
anything.
yeah, with hair removal. Uh, and then a lot of times, again, doctors will delegate. So like a pulse light system, maybe they see this person as they're smart, they know what they're doing, they're not intimidated, they can get results, they're not going to hurt anybody. They will delegate, okay, I want you to do the pulse light treatments as well, or this or that. When you get down to like an aggressive resurfacing procedure, like if it was a CO2 resurfacing, the doctor has to do it, or a PA has to do it, or nurse practitioner, or whatever, because you're really creating this wound. But the other procedures are delegatable, but you do need to check with the state board in terms of what qualifications you meet. And people need to realize too, the state board, they just want to keep things safe. They want to make sure that just some person doesn't go buy a laser and set up a shop and start burning the crap out of people. So they just want it to be safe. So there's not like a police force of like a laser police force smashing doors down, checking for people. It's just you need to do it safe. You need to do it smart. You need to know what your regulations are. You need to have your paperwork done. I had there's an office in Texas that the office manager told me that the state medical board was coming in for a visit, and that's never a fun thing for anybody. I was like, uh-oh. And usually that's maybe they were reported by somebody, or a patient complained, or a competitor, is trying to, do something. So they showed up and they, all that. And I talked to the office manager afterwards. I said, how'd it go? Fine. We had all our paperwork. We showed our, what we're doing. We showed our, all our stuff. We showed them what they need. They were happy.
Certifications and everything,
You just need to be prepared and,
Definitely. That would be a very important thing. Or a disgruntled employee, we're finding out sometimes somebody leaves and all of a sudden they go and badmouth the company that paid them and hired them. And it's really a sad situation when that actually happens. You don't want that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the, once they do buy it, and the training of the team. How long does it take? Let's say they have it now in-house. What is the process to truly educate the team on how to utilize this laser and make sure that they're following the protocols?
Yeah, most every company, big company, legitimate company, will provide a trainer as part of the deal. And depending on the device, a lot of times it's 1 day. It's 1 day of training. You're going to get 1 day of training. That's something I would try to negotiate into a contract, is to get an additional day or two of training. So they'll send a nurse or just a trainer to come in and go through it. But again, they're in the business of moving systems, selling lasers,
Yep.
cranking out as many as they can. So they're not like they want you to be safe. They want you to get results. They want you to know what you're doing. But trader's going to come and go to the next office. So a lot of these devices, it's really on the job training, learning the basics, learning the fundamentals. And I had a doctor tell me one time, whenever I get a new laser, I tell my staff, I want you to treat people who love you for the first 5 or 10 times, you know, so you can dial it in. You know, everybody's a little different. Everybody's skin is a little different. Everybody, you know, so that person has to really kind of dial in how this is going to work on certain skin types. And I look at it as like the laser is your palette and the handpiece is your paintbrush and the person is your canvas. And everybody's different. Every painting is different. And so you just need to be, learn how to be good with that particular device. I know some people that have really old devices and they're, you know, there's much better versions now, much easier to use, much more user friendly, all this, but they like the old ones because they know it so well. They know those things inside and out. They know how it's going to react on different people. So then they can be more aggressive. They get better results. They're comfortable. They know what they're telling people. So it's really doing a lot of procedures, but it's not like a crazy learning curve, depending on the system. You know, like for hair removal, it's like one of the most basic laser treatments. Once you dial it in, you know, you're good to go. But the companies, they're going to give you, now if you get a system with multiple capabilities, they'll give you 1, 2, 3 days of training. But then that's kind of it. So, you know.
Yeah, and that's where you come in. So if they need additional training, they can always reach out to someone like you to help them train.
Yeah.
So let me ask you another question about the agreement. I forgot to ask this. Are warranties negotiable? Can I like tell them I'll buy it only if you extend it by this much? Is that something that they do?
It's definitely worth asking. Now, what the laser manufacturers would always tell us is it's a hard cost that's built into the cost of the machine. So they have to put aside, like if you're going to give somebody an extra year warranty, you know, that they have to put on the books that it's a $20,000 cost or 10,000 or 30 or whatever it is. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they say. So most companies will give a 1 year warranty. I would definitely ask for a 2nd year warranty or a 3rd year warranty. No, we can't do it because the prices are so, we're cutting it to the bone. We can't really afford that. What people have to realize is that for most of these manufacturers, the service department is a separate profit center. So once it's sold, they're turning it over to the service department. And they're going to want to sell you extra warranties. And as soon as that 1 year's up, you're going to get these notices that your warranty's up. Here's the best price. You know, you're going to get it. So if you can negotiate extra warranty, that's great. Now, and the thing about warranties too, depending on the device, I recommend more and more people don't buy the extended warranties at the time your current warranty's expired, because there's more and more third-party techs that can service a lot of these things. There's some of them they can't service, and that's what you have to know. But for the ones that they can, I had an office call me from California, and they were looking at a $40,000 warranty bill coming up on their 2 devices they bought from a manufacturer. And they were like, we can't afford this. Can we get, you know, independent
Cheaper,
service on it?
something, yeah.
One of the devices they could. The other one I said, I'm sorry, you can't, because it's proprietary parts, proprietary software to get in. You know, it's like, you got to go back to the manufacturer. You got to pay the warranty, and it's an expensive device. And if it breaks down, it's going to cost you a ton. So that's stuff you have to really, you know, kind of understand.
Well, that's again part of all the negotiation and knowing what you're getting into. I think that it's so important to really know, do your homework, do diligence, make sure that you know what you're getting into, know how you're going to get out on the back end, what the warranties are like, whether you should buy the warranty or not. Do you have consumables or not? How much are the consumables? You need to figure out the profitability on that piece of on that treatment once a consumer comes in. By the time you pay your employee, by the time you make your payment, you have your product cost, your consumables, your expenses. How much profit are you going to be able to retain at that point? And that's where I think a lot of people, they get so excited with the equipment that they're buying that they forget about all the things. How am I going to make this make money for me? And that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that we see. And you know what's amazing to me? Like our membership, let's say our middle membership is $1,500 a month to gain access to Medspa Biz University. And we'll be talking to somebody and they just invested $200,000 in a piece of equipment. And then sometimes they say no to purchasing a membership from us because they think that they can do it on their own. And then we hear from them again 6 months later saying, I should have became a member because my laser is sitting there collecting dust. I need your help. I need that membership model that you teach. I need to know how to market it. I need to know how to get my sales team to, or my providers to cross market. And those are the mistakes that we see on our side, which, you know, truly breaks our heart, because we know that they need this business model, yet they can't see past. They get in their own way, basically.
Well, and the companies, the manufacturers and the reps will make it sound like it's just a slam dunk home run.
You have an ATM machine. That's what they tell them. You're buying an ATM machine.
Right. Yeah. Well, if you market it correctly, you know, yes, it can be. It can be very profitable. But if they don't, and the staff doesn't understand how to talk about it and be excited about it and get results and get people to bring their friends in and get, you know, it's all about cosmetic procedures are all about emotion. It's a want to, not a have to, a choose to, not a need to.
Yeah.
So, you know, if it's a regular medical clinic, people aren't happy when they come in because they got, you know, they got an infection or they got a problem, you know, they're not happy being there. Mm-hmm. They choose to come in and they come in, you know, this is something they're doing for themselves and they want to be excited and they want to have the excitement level brought up by the staff. They're like, oh yeah, this is something I want to do for me.
Yes. All right.
A quick story that just when I was first in this business and selling equipment, it was microdermabrasion systems. And they sent me to a little town in southern Louisiana, small bayou town, you know, down there. And I'm sitting in the lobby with this microdermabrasion system. I'm going to go in and show it to the doctor and staff. And this older lady's looking at me and she's going, you know, she goes, what is that thing? What does it do? And I said, well, it refreshes your skin. It does this, all that, you know, exfoliates. And she goes, I said, but a lot of people, they're concerned that people in this town, little community, are not going to spend the kind of money, you know, to do this procedure. And she said, honey, let me tell you something. She goes, last year my husband bought a bass boat. She said, this is going to be my bass boat.
Yeah, there you go.
And something she was going to do for herself.
Yes,
and so that's
great.
Staff understand that.
Sounds good. I think we should take some questions from everybody while I'm keying up my wonderful high achiever Danny over here. I want to remind everybody that if you don't have a copy of my book yet, you can go to medicalaestheticssuccess.com and get one. And then if you don't have the How to Make Millions, also you should really get both of them as part of your success library. So go ahead. And if you are not a subscriber to our YouTube channel, you should, because we just completed the book gathering where we went over chapter by chapter. It's all on video and it's all on YouTube. It's all ways on how we can help you improve your business and get those lasers at maximum capacity or whatever equipment you have. So people ask me also, you know, what's the most profitable treatment? I always have to laugh when somebody asks me that, because to me, every treatment you offer should be profitable, or why offer it? So my books will help you do exactly that, become more profitable in your business.
Yeah,
so let's take some questions. Go ahead.
What you do is so valuable. I can't tell you, and I really want people to understand that, because like I said, the companies want to sell a box and move on. So you really need someone like Dory that understands the business and has the capabilities and all the things that you need to be successful and help you drive that business. It's just really, really important.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it's so important that I think many companies are realizing that. We just actually made an agreement with Neogen, the emergent technology folks, that whenever they sell one of their system, they're giving people 6 months membership with us as part of their sale because they value what we do so much. So I think we're seeing more, instead of giving somebody marketing allowance, they're realizing that if we can help them implement a successful business model, then they're more likely to succeed with the equipment, and then they can buy more equipment from them instead of one and done.
Right, and it's becoming more important now because the marketplace is definitely way more crowded than it used to be. When I first got in this business, that it was few and far between, and so it wasn't that hard for people to be successful, and there was an original excitement about it. But now you've got a lot of competitors and ways that you have to understand how to navigate that.
Great. All right, Danny, we have some questions?
Yeah, coming in from Tim. He's curious about how to make it work for his business as well. So he wants to know, is it a good idea to lease instead of buying a piece of equipment?
Is it better to lease or to buy? What's the better option?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There's a lot of confusion in this area. So there's a lot of lease companies out there that will provide financing for lasers, and a lot of companies, if they say they provide financing, they don't. They just have partnered up with a lease company. And, I know who most of them are, and I've worked with them for years. So what people have to understand is a lot of times they think that a lease is just, well, I can keep it for 3 months or 6 months, and then if it's not going to work, I can return it. No. A lease purchase is a purchase. You're just buying it through a lease company. And now there's some advantages to that, possibly. Maybe there's some tax advantages. The lease companies that work with the laser companies, they know what these devices are. So if you say, I want to buy this certain device, oh, yeah, we finance a lot of those. We know what that is. You go to the bank or whatever, and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. They want to finance you. All their rates are pretty close between the companies. It's usually who's the easiest to work with, who you like, maybe they have financing specials or deferred payments or gradually increasing payments or 10% buyout, dollar buyout, whatever. You got to figure these things out. And then that could be an operating expense you can use as a tax write-off. So maybe you want to save a lot of your capital for your build out or whatever. And then maybe this lease purchase is another way to finance just that device, or you can roll other stuff into it if you want to. But the terms are typically, 2 to 5 years on those, and most people will do usually like a 10% buyout at the end of it. But you're obligated for those payments. It's not that you can just, have it for a few months and return it.
You're basically buying it, but it's a lease with option, basically. That's really
lease purchase. Yeah, it's just another financing source that can be very friendly for laser buyers. Now, however, it's a lot more difficult to get first-time buyers and startups financed for the kind of money they used to. In the early days, if you open up a Medspa and you could fog a mirror, they would finance. They would give you $300,000. I mean, no big deal. But now I see, like, if it's an esthetician, they're financing 25,000, maybe 30, something like that. If you're a startup, you've got to have really good credit. You may have to have a cosigner. It's more difficult to get the full amount or a secondary source of
even
finance.
Doctors are having hard time getting financing. Forget estheticians. I hear them all the time. They're clients of ours, and they say, oh, I wasn't able to get the financing. So let me ask you this, though. What's the difference between not just leasing and buying, because you could also rent a laser? So is that something that you're seeing happen more and more, or no?
There's not a lot of rental companies out there. It's a really hard business, and it sounds like it would be a good idea, but the people that I know that have done it, first of all, a lot of procedures, you have to have several treatments, on a regular schedule. And it may be 3 treatments or
They
4
do. I
treatments.
have clients who do it with tattoo removal. So they just schedule all the appointments all at once, and they rent
Yeah.
the tattoo removal laser for that day. They do all of it, and then they're gone.
Yeah. So that certain devices like that makes sense, or for certain treatments. But if it's it's a photo rejuvenation and you need to do it every 2 or 3 weeks or whatever as part of your package, that laser rental company, you can't depend on them to be there. So if that person comes back in and is scheduled 3 weeks and they're not there, you're waiting another 3 weeks, then you're out of your treatment regimen. And a lot of times the devices that the rental companies have are kind of old, kind of beat up, kind of, because they're driving them everywhere. They're banging them on curbs and in and out of their trucks and all this kind of stuff. So, and then they're very pricey. So oftentimes what people have, so say if they are renting a laser for tattoo removal, it's not, typically they'll treat them about once a month on those. But if they miss their treatment window, it's not that huge of a deal with a tattoo removal. But what will happen is it's so pricey to bring in a laser for a day that if you get any kind of a volume, you're probably going to be better off just buying one. Because my feeling is, to really build your business, you have to have that device there all day, all the time, so you can talk about it, you can show it.
Right.
You can do a little free treatment on the back of the hand. You can do whatever. It's just it's a little bit of a tricky thing doing rentals.
Yeah.
And not a lot of companies
All right.
do it.
We have another question.
He wants to know, this is for Don, can you recommend a laser for hair removal that works on both lighter and darker skin tones?
Is there a hair laser that works on light hair and dark hair?
Yeah, one laser equipment that works on all skin types.
All skin types?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of, there's really 2 or 3 different kinds of hair lasers out there. The thing about lasers, it's all light tissue.
What's your favorite? Let's go by that. What's your favorite laser that does most skin types?
Skin tones.
Skin tones. Yeah, skin tones.
Here's the 2 different systems that are the most popular out there. One is a combination 1064 755 laser. So the 755 nanometers
What brand is that?
Oh, there's several that make them. Candela, Cynosure.
Cynosure.
Yeah, and then there's other ones, that are just as good, but they're not as expensive. So what they will do is typically they'll use the Alexandrite for the Fitzpatrick 1 through 3s, maybe 4s, and then treat the 5s and 6s with the long pulse YAG part. And so they'll split it up that way. Now what you're doing is you're taking all the energy and dumping it in 40 milliseconds per shot or whatever. So it's pow, 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 pow. That can be painful. They have a lot of coarse, dark hair. You have to really watch the skin. You don't want to burn people. So that's one. The other one is the diode lasers. And I worked for the company that actually came out with the InMotion technology, which I really like. So with the diode, you're typically at 800 nanometers, and now they're starting to blend other wavelengths in there. But what they can do is they can lower the power, and then you do it in motion. So instead of like blasting all the energy in per shot, then you have to have like cryogen spray to cool the skin or a cold air blower. Now they use really low fluences, and they go over an area like this, kind of like they're rubbing the hair off, and now you're baking the hair, so you're not spiking the temperature of the skin, and that's because that's where you get into the burns. So one of the reasons I like the InMotion is that it's really hard to burn somebody, because you're talking to the person you're treating. Hey, tell me if it's getting too warm. Okay, scale of 1 to 10. I don't want to get you above a 6. Let me know where we are. It's going up, 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 inspiring like 10 times a second. You're moving it, you're heating it up, it up, baking the hair. Oh, it's like a 3. Oh, it's like a 4. Oh, it's like a 5. Stop.
Yeah.
Wait a few seconds. Keep going. So just 2 different ways to do it, but I like that InMotion for the really darker skin people.
Yeah. Nice. Another question?
Yes, we have quite a few in the queue, but this one is from Valerie, and she said, thank you so much for all these great tips. An important question for her, is she has a Fontana Great Laser, but the company didn't have enough engineers to fix it. So for 4 weeks, they lost a lot of money. They couldn't operate their machine. How do you negotiate a payment plan with a laser company for a repair in that case when they can't operate it on clients?
So their laser was down for 4 weeks. How do you negotiate a repair when they lost all that revenue for a 4 week period?
You're kind of stuck unless it's a laser that can be serviced by third-party techs.
Or unless you made it part of your negotiating process from the very beginning.
If you can, but what you have to realize is even these big companies, people think that they have these massive service departments with, dozens of techs.
No.
A lot of times they have 4 techs in the home office, and they're stacked up with service. It's just that they can't get to it, or sometimes they have a supply problem, and like it's a power supply or something, and they just don't have it. But I've heard this a number of times where people are down and they can't get service, and they're losing patience, and they're going crazy. So, either if it can be serviced by a third-party tech, and I know a bunch of them, I can help out in a lot of cases that way, they could come in and maybe repair it if they can get parts and all that kind of stuff. Again, it depends on the system. Some are great for that, some are not so great. Or they could try to negotiate in the contract that they guarantee that they will have, a service tech out within 48 hours. Whether they'll do it, that's the question, because a lot of times, there's not a laser tech in every city. So
Right.
they may say,
They have to
well,
fly in.
our tech is in, Dallas, but you're in Shreveport. He'll get out there as soon as he can. He gets out there, analyzes the problem. He doesn't have the part that he needs. It's on back order.
Yeah.
The
story goes
can
on.
Go on. So
You're basically out of luck for 4 weeks.
unless you can negotiate them to get you a loaner.
Yes.
And this is something that you would want to get in writing, that if you're down for more than 72 hours or whatever it is, they will ship a loaner to you.
Yeah.
Take yours until it's
Yeah.
serviced. Now, a lot of the devices anymore, they do depot service, which I really like. So the systems are getting lighter and easier to transport. Some of them you just can't, like a pulse dye laser or some of these big ones, they have to have a tech go on site. But a lot of times with the Dura ones, maybe it's just a handpiece.
Yeah.
And so they can overnight a handpiece, you click it in, you're back in business. It just depends on what it is.
I think they need to be sometimes clients or people who have these equipment. Sometimes you're too nice to and too patient. You have to really put your foot down and be demanding. I think you need to really be urgent about the matter. Not like I have another client that had a laser down for now just about the same time, about 4 weeks, and that's totally unacceptable, because now you have clients coming in, they're all ticked off because they already paid you. Now you can't do the treatment, and the team is just like so nonchalant about it. I'm like, you better call them. You better call them every single day.
And again, once the sale is done, the companies turn it over to the service department.
Yeah.
Service department's like, I don't care.
There's no urgency.
Yeah, it's not, I didn't come up with the contract. I didn't negotiate it. My job is a service. We're back ordered. We have limited techs. We have, we're doing the best we can. And then a big complaint is, I can't get them to call me back.
Yeah.
I've called the office 4 times and I can't get them to call me back. When they call me back, I hear the same story. So it's you got to really.
When it comes to that point, though, I would start I'm going to be very upfront, and that's why it's so important when you do negotiate that contract with the purchase to have all these belly aching situations in that agreement, so you are covering yourself. Like that loaner, I mean, that should be in every contract I think you sign. You're not buying anything unless there is a way for them to be back to you within a certain amount of time, whether it's a technician coming to fix it or whether it's a loaner. You need to be serviced.
Yeah, and again, remember that you're in the driver's seat as the buyer. and that rep really wants to sell you a laser,
That's
that company
right.
really wants to sell you a laser, so if one of your hot buttons is extended warranty and getting a loaner, that rep's going to go back to the manager
Yeah.
and so you got to really know you want that one, like you're in the final stages. Like, and you tell them, I want this laser.
That's right.
This is what I have, financing ready. I'm ready to sign up. I'll sign the paperwork if you will
That's right.
put in the paperwork. You're going to get me a loaner within X
But
amount of
see,
days.
those are the mistakes, Don, that people make because they don't know what they don't know, what you started this conversation actually having. And that's why I'm so glad that, we are having this conversation to help the buyers, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are opening up their purses, buying all this, and it's a shame that sometimes they're not being serviced the way they should be serviced. Another question?
Yeah, coming in from Sherry. She said, Dory, thank you for all you do. I'm going to look into your memberships. But right now, my question is, what is the best way to market and sell a new laser treatment?
Oh, that's a great question. You really need a whole campaign, and the best way to market a new piece of equipment is to host an event. So we have a module called hosting six-figure events, so I would highly recommend you get your hands on that, because when you have an event and you do demonstrations and you do special offers just for the launch to get people excited and introduced about it, it's going to be a great way for you to launch it. As far as the sales process, we love selling memberships, and all of our clients who are members with us, the first thing we help them do is create a membership. So once you create that membership model within your business, then it becomes very easy for the team to make recommendations to different equipment that you have available, and the sales process becomes very, very easy. So we believe in doing an in-depth consultation. We call it a get-to-know-you consultation. So you can create a whole customized program for people. That system is called the Sacred System. As a matter of fact, there's a whole chapter of it in my book, as well as the product, of course. If you're a member, you have access to that totally free on Medspa Biz University. If you're not, you can always go and buy that product by itself in the shop. But there is a process, and that's what we focus on. That's how we help our clients become more successful, is once you buy that piece of equipment, you need to market it, you need to cross-market between the team, you need to sell it, you need to make sure that you are profitable and you're getting the proper return on your investment from that piece of equipment. So there's a lot to do, but believe me, it'll be worth it when you do it right. So thank you for your support.
I've seen offices when they do an event who will make $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in one day.
Oh, we do events. No, that's not good, Don. We do events for our clients. They do 6 figures in 4 hours.
There you go. I was low. That's
the name of the event product, actually. It's called Making 6 Figures with Your Events. No, we have such a great strategy for that. Oh my gosh, I don't settle. Actually, we do that in a lunch and learn with a small, tiny event. But when you do a big event, you should do 6 figures easily.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I've been in offices where the line to buy and sign up for memberships goes down the hallway, down another hallway.
That's how it should be.
They're so excited. They're just lining up to buy these packages.
Very cool. All right, we're past the hour, almost at the hour. We'll take one more question, Danny.
Okay. Gloria said she's been following you for years and she's ready to open now, but she needs help on deciding what to put on her menu and what equipment she needs to buy. So how does she go about that?
Yeah, that's what we started the conversation with. So since now you're ready to open, my advice would be to call our office, set up an appointment so we can realize what your vision is, and then we can help you plan the menu and make it part of the business plan that you need, so that way you can go for funding and be able to get the loan and know exactly what you're going to offer. So selecting a menu is really depending on where you are in the area, who your competition is going to be, what are they offering, so you don't offer exactly the same thing. So there's a lot of due diligence that we need to do before you decide on what menu offering you're gonna have. So give us a call. We'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you for your question. All right. Any last tip you have for everybody, Don?
Lean on Dory and her staff to help you figure this out and how to promote your business. It's so important these days. Don't, if a rep says just buy it and they will come, don't believe it, unless you just have this amazing database so they're just ready to go. So you really do need the help. Reach out to me if you have any questions. Be happy to help you out. I like I said, I kind of work like a laser realtor. So if people want me to find a less expensive version of a device for them, I have the connections to do that. I have really good used laser partners, and so we're doing a lot more with used lasers. And what we do is we really help people understand what's a good option, what's going to fit in your budget. And then I'm involved. I make sure you're taken care of, that what's promised is delivered. You can always call me and check it.
You're like the big brother. You're like the big brother, Don.
I'm like the brother-in-law that you like in the business.
Yes, and we're gonna put all your information down below this video, by the way, as it gets published. But in the meantime, it's lasercoach.com, correct?
Yes.
So you can go to lasercoach.com and reach out to Don and tell him what you're planning on doing. And if you need help with your menu, of course, we're always available here for you. And I also want to mention one more thing, because we have this seminar coming up. It's to help you with your positioning, and we help you become a published author, help you write a book. And if you want to learn more about that, go to becomepublished.com so you can join us, so I can help position you as the expert that you are. And if you have expertise, we do this show on regular basis. So if you have value to share with others, you can go to meettheexperts.com and be able to apply, so you too can be a guest on Meet the Experts. So Don, thank you so much for being with us. It was a pleasure having you. This was a great conversation. I look forward to hosting you here in our studio in person maybe one day.
Sounds good.
So thank you all. Thank you all for joining us. Please leave us some comments below this video. We love for you to connect with us on social media and subscribe to the YouTube channel. So thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, stay inspired.